Uh, Thanks for being here tonight, and sorry for the change of date. We were able to have this webinar yesterday, but I ran into some issues, so I'm glad that you could make it tonight. So, a few things. If, like I said, there's at the top of your screen, you have a little menu there, and there's a bubble. The bubble is what you will use to ask questions or communicate with me. Okay, so you can't communicate via mic. You're going to have to write in the chat box. So if you have questions throughout the webinar, please ask them. I'm not going to be looking at them until the very end. So if you have any questions, hold on to them. There will be a period where you can ask them at the end. And that's about what the instructions are for this webinar. So let's get started. So developing with this webinar about developing 13U and 14U athletes. First of all, I have to thank you for making time to be on the webinar. I know a lot of you have also signed up to other webinars. We really wanted this year to take the professional development of coaches to the coaches. I know that often we host conferences, but they're very localized and not everybody can attend. But with these webinars, you can connect via the internet from the comfort of your living room or wherever you are. So you can make the access to some experts and some knowledge easier. So thanks for being connected on this webinar. On the agenda tonight, so we're going to talk about our younger athletes, and I covered a bunch of topics, but essentially, I kind of want to just share some thoughts and get you guys to reflect on how you are addressing the development of your younger athletes. I don't necessarily, know for sure that I have all the answers, but I certainly have been thinking a lot about that, and I've seen a lot of coaches do different things, and just want to be able to share those thoughts. We're going to go over the characteristics of this age group, about objectives for the season with the younger athletes. We're going to talk a little bit about the seasonal plan and LTAD, and then we're going to cover the needs of the athletes in terms of physical abilities, technical skills, and all that stuff. So that's going to be on the menu for tonight's presentation. So actually, one thing that I would like to do for this webinar is if you could go in your chat box right now and maybe indicate one question that you would like answered in this webinar right off the bat, then I can try to answer them as I'm going through the content. If I don't get to it, you can always ask at the end again. But I'm going to check the chat box right now. So if you have a question that you would like an answer to, I can write it down in the chat box, and I will do my best to answer it within the content that's already planned. If I can't answer it at the end. Okay, so one of the questions is, yes, this webinar is recorded, so you will have access to the end of, if you can't make it until then, you will be able to see it again. So, just a little bit about myself and a little bit why I decided to do this webinar. Like I said, I want to share some ideas. I've been coaching at the 13U and 14U level on the boys side for the past 2 years in Hamilton with the MAC Volleyball Club. So I coached a group of 10 kids at 13U that have never played volleyball before, and 4 of those kids were actually underage. And we made it to the quarters at OC the first year and lost the first team, Pac-Man, in the quarters. So it was a tough matchup. But then this past year, we were able to make it to the bronze medal final, and actually took a set off of all the 3 top teams, having 2 brand new guys on our team, and then a bunch of other guys that had only played for a year, as opposed to some of the top clubs that have big house leagues with players that have some experience. So there are some things that I did that I've learned that I got from other people that I tried, and I kind of want to share a little bit of the things that I've learned through this webinar and discuss that and have your questions and be able to kind of have somewhat of a discussion on the topic. So why I really wanted that, like I said, share some thoughts, but I find that the 13U and the 14U level is where a lot of players start. Now on the girls' side, we have players starting even earlier than that. But generally speaking, 13U will be the first time for most athletes that they join a club team. The other thing too is at that age, a lot of the rules are modified. So if you are new to coaching that age group, it can be a little scary to get into, the fair play to triple ball, the no specialization rule. So I want to cover a little bit of those topics, make sure that you're all comfortable with those. And 13, 14 is a very important development stage for volleyball players. They're going to learn a lot of basics, learn a lot of the techniques that they will need to move on 15, 16U, where the sport starts to become a lot more competitive. And so acquiring that base at 13, 14U is really, really important, especially when we look at the long-term development of athletes and helping some of our players to reach, university levels, and who knows, eventually even higher. So yeah, and the last thing is there's a lot of coach development at that age. When you attend conferences, most of the presentations and topics revolve around high levels, either 18U, 16U sometimes, or college, but not a lot about 13 and 14U. So I wanted to provide an opportunity for people to reflect on coaching that age group. So the characteristics of the age, it's important to define them in order to know, what we're going to talk about and how we're going to approach the development of those athletes. But, they are between 11 and 14 years old. A lot of girls and guys start playing 13U when they're a bit younger. Now with the addition of the younger age group, maybe we'll start seeing less of that, but we still see a lot of that. Within that group, 11 to 14-year-old, there is a really wide range of developmental levels. So we can have some athletes that are physically 2, 3, 4 years ahead of other kids the same age. So that poses a big challenge when it comes to coaching these athletes. And then while a lot of them are new to the sport of volleyball, and at that age too, we find that the thing that drives kids to play volleyball is when you go to older ages. Of course, players want to have fun, but they've kind of decided that they want to play that sport competitively, and there's a different kind of commitment to the sport at the 13, 14 level. At the earlier stages, it may not be as clear. So those are all things that we can consider, and there are a lot of other characteristics that I know you can think of, and that's why I put the 3 dots there. As you reflect on the needs of your athletes, you will find a lot of characteristics of those athletes that will define your context, and that will be important for you to know in order to plan your training. So once we get into the objectives of a season, for example, with that age group, when we consider what we just talked about, the main thing I think that we need to address is obviously physical abilities of our athletes. Right? It's not all about volleyball and the skills, but in order to progress in the sport and at a certain level, the athletes need to have some basic physical abilities. And so addressing that within your training is really important and needs to be part of your objectives. Then the technical skills, obviously, we have a strong skill foundation for our athletes to play the sport and evolve. And then obviously teaching the tactics, the systems of play, so we can introduce the components of the game to our athletes, because a lot of them will have, if they're new to volleyball and they don't know the positions, they don't know the rotations, they don't know the different systems of play, positioning on the court, in defense, offense, all that stuff. So everything is new, and we need to address those things. Something that a coach at 16, 17 years doesn't have to do. They can go straight into other aspects of the game, but at 13, 14 years, those are all things that we need to think about and combine with the athlete's huge need of developing their skills and their understanding of the different actions involved in the sport. And then obviously, if we complete the loop, there's obviously mental skills and emotional skills that are important to with the kids at that age. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into the mental skills and emotional skills. I'm really going to focus on the first three objectives tonight. But again, we're not going to be able to talk about everything. And if you want to explore mental skills and emotional skills, then maybe we can have a chat about that at a later time. So the ultimate objective at that age group, I put that in there, is and I heard that from John Kessel, who's the director of coach development for USAV. He says, don't be a kid's last coach. So your objective as a coach, your ultimate objective is to never be an athlete's last coach. So how are we going to inspire those younger athletes to want to keep playing volleyball? How are we going to inspire them to come back next year and play some more volleyball? How are we going to equip them, right? Like, give them the tools. How are we going to teach them the sport of volleyball so that they can make that choice? Because they're going to get to a tryout the year after, and they're going to have the skills and the understanding of the game and the physical abilities for select them on a team, right? So that's kind of the ultimate objective. So whenever we're going to talk about developing the physical ability, techniques, the tactics, we're all going to have this long-term vision of, okay, how am I, through my plan, through my coaching, how am I going to allow this athlete to play for as long as possible? And this is something that I had to think about a lot when I started coaching my 13U boys a few years ago, because obviously less boys play volleyball. Typically, there's more competition coming from other sports for boys' attention. Boys play a lot of different sports, and volleyball is not the first sport that comes to mind for them. So when I had 10 players in my team at 13U, that was just the 10 players that showed up at tryout, and 4 of them were younger. I really had to figure out a way to keep them involved, because who knew if there would even be a team the year after. So I think the boys' side really helps you address that. You have to make it fun. You have to make it interesting for the boys, so they come back and they stick with it. Obviously, also important for girls, but I thought that on the boys' side it was a must. So whenever we talk about the long term and developing athletes, there's the eternal conversation about development versus winning. We hear that a lot. I'm sure you've heard it. I'm sure you've talked about it. I'm sure you've had conversations with people about this is development or this is winning. This coach is really development. This coach is only about winning. There used to be a big contradiction between both of those approach to coaching young athletes. But is it really contradictory? That's kind of the question that I posed. I think it isn't. I think that when we talk about development, we often refer to the development of the player's individual abilities. Right? When we talk about a coach is doing development, we think about, well, that coach is really making sure all the athletes are developing, they are improving, and they're all improving individually so that they acquire the skills and the tactics that they need to play the game. As opposed to when we talk about a coach wanting to win, and often say, some coaches want to win by Friday. So all that matters really is the performance on the weekend, and often that term of winning refers to the improvement of the team's performance. So how are we going to make that team win? What combination of players? What specializations of our player can we use in our team to make sure that we are going to have the best results, the best performance at our tournament? So two slightly different things, but I think that those two things are compatible if development is done properly. Okay, so if it's well planned, there is a way to do development that will lead to your team's success, and especially at 13 and 14, because of the fact that both those age groups are completely fair play. So fair play from the first game of the first tournament of the season until the last game of provincial championships. 13 and 14 are both like that. They're both fair play all the way. So if you do development at those ages, if you really care about how each athlete can become the best player they can be, will ultimately have success. Because really, when you talk about fair play, you want to have the best around the team, so that you don't have necessarily a weak lineup like a lot of teams will put out there. A lot of teams will put a strong first lineup and then a weaker second lineup. But if both of your lineups, if all of your players are at a higher level, that's what's going to lead you to success. So I really think those two terms are compatible together. So athlete development, we can't go through a webinar on 13, 14 without talking about long-term athlete development. There are a lot of things involved in the LTAD. Obviously, the things that I want to talk about are the windows of accelerated adaptation, and I'll come back to them. But and to explain what they are, I want to talk about suggested length of the season, the recommended hours of training, the training to competition ratio, and all those things. And I've actually I have a copy of the LTAD right here. So this is our LTAD, Volleyball for Life, Long-Term Athlete Development for Volleyball in Canada. This was put together in 2006, so in 10 years. It's a little bit outdated. But the information there is very, very, very valuable and very good. It is being reviewed right now. So Volleyball Canada is reviewing it right now, and will soon version of DCD for volleyball with some adjustments based on the newest science. There's still a lot of good stuff you can get out of this document, and you can find it. If you don't have it, you can find it easily in Google. Just type LTAD volleyball, and it's the first one that comes up. So the age group that really is interesting to us right now is this one here on the right in green. So the train to train group. Training group is for basically male athletes, so boys age 12 to 16 and girls age 11 and 15. The difference in the ages there is because the level of physical maturity of girls higher at a younger age than for guys, and so that's why there's a small difference here in the ages. So we'll go down to the train to train section just to review a couple of things. And these are really, really important things to know. If you've never looked at this document, please find it and take a look at it. It's still early in the season, and this will give you a lot of good indications of just how to structure your training and where to put your focus. So if we look at principal focus, let's just go to the very first thing it says for this age group is principal focus at this age should be to build an aerobic base, develop speed, and to further develop and consolidate volleyball skills. There's something here called strength towards the end of the stage for females. I'll touch on that in a second. But basically, build the aerobic base, develop speed and skills. The focus at that age, right? So right there, we can ourselves about, okay, what are we doing here? What are we planning on doing with our athletes? And are we doing all those things, or is what we're trying to do, does that fit within those guidelines right here? Interesting fact is they look at stage, a season should be between 26 and 34 weeks, which works well in Ontario for volleyball. The season just started with the first week of the trial window all the way to provincials. The last weekend of provincials is 32 weeks. So we're right in there. So that's a good thing going on for us, coaching young athletes. Then we're thinking in Ontario we fall short a little bit is when we talk about hours per week. Recommended hours of volleyball training a week is 6 to 10 hours. 6 to 10 hours. If we also have 2 hour sessions a week, that's only 4 hours. We're short 2 to 6 hours a week. So if you are able to get your athletes in the gym more often, then great. If you can't, then we're going to have to find some solutions to that. We're going to have to adapt what we do, and we're going to talk about that in a couple minutes. But very interesting to see here how much training is recommended for that age group. Now, obviously, because this goes from 11 years old to on the girl side, 16 years old on the guy side, there may be some variation on how much you want an athlete to train when they're 12, 13 versus when they're 15, 16. But still, when you look at the recommendation, we're still pretty far with 2 times 2 and that's if we have 2 hours. Most people actually have 90 minutes. So the volleyball training is important for the athletes to acquire the skills. And then the other aspect that I mentioned is to consider is the ratio of training. The ratio here says, okay, at that stage we should be training 70% of the time. We should be playing 30% of the time. But when you establish your plan, you're really going to have to look at that and make sure that when you count the number of hours you're spending in the gym training and the number of hours you're spending at tournaments, you want to be getting to around that number of 70 and 30. Okay? So things to remember, and we're going to talk about the facilities where actually the athletes are sensitive this period to these physical abilities, to the training of these ones. So we're talking about aerobic development, speed, and strength for girls. Then we're going to need to know about the training to competition ratio. And we're going to talk a little bit about the lack of training or the lack of training hours that we have typically in Ontario at that age group. Those will be things that will help us discuss how we're going to address the development of our athletes. So we'll go back to presentation here. Last point I make here is probably actually the most important thing that you can do coaching 13 and 14 athletes. If you are not measuring and taking measurements of athletes, you're likely to miss the boat when it comes to knowing where they are in the development, especially on the guys' side. Because a lot of the recommendations from the LTD are based on growth and puberty. So, for example, on the guy's side, if I just exit here, actually, I have another page to show you, but it's also pulled from the LTD. One second. Right here. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this picture, but basically, the curve you see here is the rate of growth of the kid, of the young athlete. And then you have the age going across here. And then for female top and male at the bottom, you can see where the windows of trainability are. So for example, when we talk about our group of athletes, 13, 14, we see that on both the girls and the guys side, they're in their second window of speed training. Okay. Now, if we don't know when our athlete hits that peak and starts coming down, we won't know when our athlete is finishing or exiting their second window of speed training. We're also not going to know when our athletes are ready to go with strength on the female side and also on the male side. So measuring your athletes and starting them right away at 13 years, starting to measure them, measure their height, their wingspan, and their torso height every 3 months. You can do this through 13, 14, and if that information stays around with your club, then by the time they get to 15, 16, as a club, as a coach, you can be a lot more precise with your recommendations for different types of training. Personally, I've done this for the last few years. So what I've done is I have basically data since October of 2015 on some of my players, and so you can see if you take Jacob, October 15th, he was 156 centimeters, and let's take another one that I actually measured yesterday. Let's take Quinn. Quinn, 159 centimeters on October 2015, so 2 years ago. Yesterday was measured at 176.5 centimeters. So almost a 20 centimeter growth in 2 years. When I take this and plot it into a graph like this, or if I take it into my rate of growth, I know I can look at, okay, he's grown 2 centimeters, 434. That's pretty fast. Now it's coming down. So if the next one is also a little bit lower, I know that maybe he's hit that peak a little earlier in his development. He's an early developer, and with that data, I know that, okay, in a few months, he'll be ready to start doing strength training. So really tracking the growth of your athletes with height, and then lower down I have arm span and torso height. Really important things to do at that age. Really, really, really important. Measure your athletes. You will know what to do. You will have the data that you need to make some good decisions about about what to train on their physical ability side of things. So once you consider all of the things that you need to train with your athletes, your best tool, okay, after you've gone through the LTD and you determine this is what I want to do, I need to address, physical abilities, technical skills. You need to build yourself a seasonal plan. Now there will be a session. Richard Eddy is going to be doing a session on seasonal planning next week. So if you want to know more about that, you can definitely tune into that presentation. All I'm going to do is show you the tool that I use and that I've used the past 2 years, 13, 14, just to show you what you could do in a season. So this is the plan I had last year for my team new players. So basically, at the top here, I had all my weeks. Then right under, I had all of my events, and underneath in blue, those were all our trainings. So all my trainings on Mondays and Wednesdays, all the way through the year. And through this, able to say, okay, this is how much training I have, and this is what I'm going to be able to do. And the reason the plan is really important is because it's going to allow you to reflect on your context and make the right decisions. So, okay, ideally at 13, 14, we would be training aerobic capacity, speed. We would be training skills. We would be doing mental training, all that stuff. There's just not enough time if you only have 2 practices a week to address all of that. So with a plan like this, you can actually structure everything so that it makes sense. So, in a plan like this, you will have all of your physical abilities here and what you decide to work on. You have your technique, whether you're going to be working on basic techniques or individual tactics or advanced techniques. You can plan all of that for your season. And then I like to add my skills and what I'm going to focus on each week. Once you do that, you really have that plan that will help you address everything. And really, by the end of this session, hopefully you have a better idea of what you want to do. And this is the way to structure it so that you actually done. Without a plan, it's really, really hard to get it done. And again, I'm not going to go over this too many details. Richard, Eddie will do that next week in this presentation. But once you have your plan, it's really easy to go and get your practice done. For example, and that's the last thing I'm going to say about the plan, that on, let's say, the week of October 24th, I'm going to be working on hitting and blocking. And my practice plan is pretty easy. I got hitting and blocking. I'm going to do is easy. I can put in my practice plan. I know that this is it's making sense, and I know I'm not guessing because it's been planned. It's been thought through, and my practice planning now becomes really easy. So this one here, actually, this template, I took from the Volleyball Canada Development Model website. Okay, so you can have access to this tool very, very easily. What I like about it is that once you put in all your numbers, it gives you your ratio of training to competition. And as you can see, last year I was, really, really, really close to our 70%, 30% training to competition ratio. And I'm convinced that this was one of the things that really helped us peak right time in the season. So it's a good tool to use. And you can find, if you go on, the website is vcdm.org. Okay, so vcdm.org. You go into coaches. You can click on coaches. Just here where you can find that. You go on LTAD development stages, indoor LTAD developmental stages. 14 new train to train A. That one includes the 13s. As you click on this, you have more information. You're going to have the things that we talked about. And then you have your seasonal planning tool. And if you click on this download interactive season, you will have the exact template that I would in, and you can fill it in and use it for yourself to plan your season. Probably the best 3 hours you are to invest in your team this season. Really, really encourage you to do that as you plan your training with your 13, 14 athletes. Often that's something that coaches at a higher level do, but it's just as important with our younger athletes. So, let's get in the heart of it. Physical abilities. And so we saw the LTD recommends working on aerobic capacity, speed, strength for girls at the end of their stage. The one thing I think is most important, because most of us don't have a lot of time, is to address speed only. Because aerobic capacity, you're going to address it through the volume and the load of your sessions. If you have a really, really intense session for 2 hours or 90 minutes, there you go. You just addressed aerobic capacity. You just need to make sure that in your season, you're going to have a few of those very intense practice Also being aware of where your athletes are in terms of their fatigue, but you can have, some of those hard practices so that your athletes develop that physical ability. The harder one to include is speed. How do we train speed within our practices? Because we're not going to start having our athletes come for a third, fourth session a week just to address speed. So addressing it within your practice is something that's really important, especially because they're at the end of that second window of trainability for speed. So when training speed, experts recommend bouts of activity for, from 5 to 20 seconds at speed as fast as they can. That could be lateral movement, forward, backward movement. That could be also shoulder, like an activity where they have to throw or hit a ball really quick. So any type of speed work needs to be done in those short chunks of time. And then the other important thing to train is to make sure that your players are fully recovered before they go to the next set. So one of the things that I recommend for you guys to train speed and address it is to do it at the, go back to my thing here, is to do it right after warm-up. So right after warm-up, your athletes are ready to go, and you can build a skill and speed circuit right into your practice session, okay? So what that looks like is you can have your warm-up, athletes come in, they play a little game, whatever dynamic stretches you have for them, they're ready to go. Okay, girls, let's get you guys into a speed and skill circuit. So you're going to do a set of lines. So you're going to do, and you can decide whatever it is. You go the attack line, back, middle, whatever. You're going to do this max speed, and then you're going to take a break for seconds or minutes. But during that break, you're going to do, set a ball with a partner, and you're going to set back and forth with a partner. While your athletes are actively resting and recovering, they're doing some skills, and then you have your clock, your watch, go minutes, get back on the line, let's go for another bout, and you do this 6 to 8 times. It's gonna take about 15 minutes of your practice at the beginning, but you worked on speed. Okay, so that's a really, really important physical ability for your athletes, but you've done it in a way that you didn't really take anything away from working on skills. Because again, the importance is making the most out of that short amount of time that we have in practice. So that's the way that I've done it in the past. It's worked really, really well, and I would really recommend that you find that time to work on speed. It will, it's crazy what it does, and you will find by the middle of your season that somehow you dig more balls, because all of a sudden athletes they get faster out of the blocks, they get on their feet faster, they move the ball faster, and those are all things that we want in our younger athletes. And if we don't do it, then we do a disservice to our athletes, because later on it's going to be harder for them to acquire those skills and that speed. So let's just address it right off the bat when they start 13, 14U within our practices. The technical skills. Technical skills, obviously, super important. We talked about building the foundation. The skills are the skills. Whether you're a 13U executing a pass or a set, or you're a professional player executing a pass or a set, it looks the same, or it should look the same. There's no reason why you would teach a skill differently at a young age than you would at an older age. If you say, okay, yeah, but LP, my player has to underhand serve. Sure, underhand serve is a different technique, is a different skill than the overhand serve. But if your athlete is 13 and does overhand serve, it should look exactly the same as a pro doing the exact same play. So skills are the skills. Now, at 13, 14U, it's really, really important that that we train all the skills with all athletes. Everybody should set everybody should pass, everybody should hit. It is the time for them to learn those skills. They're not going to be learning how to pass once they get to 18 years old. And even if they do, they're never going to get as good as if they had been doing it since they were 12 years old. And I know this for a fact because personally, when I played volleyball, I never passed until I was 18. And I got okay, but I never, with no amount of work was enough to get any level of those guys that had been passing forever. So really important for everybody to get a taste of all those skills at a young age. Other thing too, 13, 14U, because we want them to learn the skills, we need them to have the reps. We need the athletes to have as many reps with the ball as possible, as many sets, as many passes, as many hits, as many opportunities to read, react, and execute the skill. So ways we can do this, simple. We eliminate coach-handled balls or coach-led drills. Take yourself out of your drill design and the running of your drill. You don't need to be tossing the ball. You don't need to be serving a ball. You don't need to be setting a ball for your athletes. You have athletes in the gym, they can do that for themselves. And they're beginners and they don't have the skills. They're not really in control. Well, that's because when they get on court, all that are going to come at them are going to be coming from players that are not in control. So let's get players used to what they're going to face. And the best example, a lot of coaches are, especially are afraid of or comfortable, I guess, with the hitting part. And I've seen a lot of coaches at that level just tossing balls for their athletes, because how could a beginner, toss a ball or set a ball to another player? Well, there's a way. If you put a player 3 with the ball in their hands facing position 4, without having ever really set a ball, they can easily toss it right over their head, take your hands over their head, and set the ball nice and high, and give a ball that's good enough for an athlete to come in and hit it. So there you go. Easy, simple way to eliminate the need of having you involved in the drill and maximizing the skills. Your athlete's going to hit. You're going to have one athlete learning or getting a rep at setting. So this is really, really important at 13, 14 years. Let's get them active. Let's give them reps. Another do this in small group drills. So do you do one-on-ones? Do you do 2s? Do you do 3s? Do you do 4s when you practice? Or do you go straight into 6s? When you have 12 players on the court, there's only one person at a time touching the ball. That's 1/12 of your athletes touching the ball. If you do a one-on-one, then it's half of your players touching the ball at once. 2s, well, you can do the math. But the more you get your group, the more reps your players are going to be. And the skills are the same, right? I'm going to learn how to pass the ball, whether I'm passing on a half court with one other player, or if I'm passing on a full court with 3 other players, a setter, and the hitter's ready to go. The skills are the skills, so they're going to learn it just as well in a one-on-one and 2-on-2. But those formats allow more of the players to get more reps when it's very important at that young age. And then the other thing I would say is you need to make skill training a priority at 13, 14 all year. When you get to an older age, 16, 17, 18, usually they do a really, really big focus on skills before Christmas. And after that, you're going to get into more tactics, more systems. You're still going to work on the skills, but you're going to work on them. You're going to maintain, and you're going to kind of put them in a 6-on-6 contact. With 13, 14 athletes, they're so young and there's so little time for us with them in the gym. We need to be doing some form of acquisition almost all year. They need to learn so much that, and they forget so easily, and to repeat a lot of those things. So we need to come back and do skill training all year. So if you plan to kind of stop doing skill training and really focus on your 6-on-6 at some point, I would encourage you to rethink that and to make some room for that skill development. So those drills where we're really isolating a skill and trying to make it better. And then one thing that I like to do that I did the past couple of years, I think worked well when I was coaching my 13, 14 years, I never used positions on positions. So for the first 2 years of these guys' volleyball career, I guess, they know what a setter is, they know what a left side or middle is, but I never used those terms. I will always say, you're going to be playing position 4, play in position 3, or you'll be setting, right? You'll set, you'll hit, you'll pass in this game, in this activity, in this drill. I've never really used the word you're a setter. I think when we do that, we put limitation in the mind of our athletes, especially when they're that young. They're going to be thinking, I'm a setter, then I should set. And if I'm a setter, then I shouldn't be doing the other skills. But working on the base with our athletes and working on all the skills is so important. I just thought it was helpful to not, at a young age, start putting those words in the head of my athletes, so that they wouldn't think that they're limited to one position, one skill only. I guess it just helped the buy-in. I know that sometimes, even at 13, 14, it can be hard with some athletes to say you're going to play all skills and all positions, but that's necessary for them, so it can help them by not putting emphasis on positions. It may help. Then in terms of the skills, at 13, 14 one thing I've been reflecting on a lot is the sequence of skill acquisition. So, what order should we teach the skills in? So traditionally, we teach pass, set, hit, because that's the order of where the ball goes. It goes to pass, set, and hit. But I like, I've given a lot of thought of the feedback, to the feedback loop in volleyball. And what I mean by that is that what determines if a set is good or not is really the hit and the hitter. I can give a really poor set, but if there's a good hitter at the end there, they're going to make that good. And as a setter, I'm going to think, oh, that was a good set. Same thing with passing. I can make an average pass. A good setter will be able to, make a good play and make a good set. This way, when you think that my pass is okay, right? So the feedback loop goes backwards. It goes hit, set, pass. So what I've been doing, and with a certain level of success is start teaching the skills reverse order. So I start with the hitting, and then I include the setting, and then I finish with the passing. And what I found it does, especially at a younger age, is it makes players feel they're successful earlier, because when they go to set that ball, they have someone who can hit it, and that makes them feel good about their sets. Same thing about their pass. When you teach it in the order of pass, set, hit, you pass, but then you don't really have anyone who can set the ball, and it can be, I guess, discouraging for some players. Same thing, you go to teach setting, but you haven't worked on hitting a lot. So then you're setting nice sets, but you got nobody to actually hit the ball in a good way. So I found that doing it the other way around reinforce the skills better, and make the kids, I guess, enjoy their set better because they know there's someone who can hit it. They enjoy the pass better because they know someone can actually set it to an attacker. So that's a thought I'd like to, wanted to share with you to think about and how you can apply that in your training with your athletes. So in tactical skills, reading and decision making is super important, but the most important thing in the age is really the core awareness and the movement. So, and that's going to be driven by, reading and decision making, but really what we're talking about here is where do we position ourselves? Where are our athletes going? How are they moving? Are they moving off the net, or are they still standing at the net when the set comes to them, right? Do they understand that once the ball's on their side of the net, they need to back up and create some space with the net in order to be able to approach an attack? Where do they position themselves in defense? able to read the set and react accordingly and getting in a position where they're going to dig that ball. That they understand the relationship between defense and blocking. Those are really, really important skills that need to be taught to the players and to all players. And this is why playing all positions becomes important, because you want everybody on your team to be understanding those different tactical skills. The other thing that I think at 13U and 14U we need to start doing is teaching our kids to do tactical serving. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be telling my player where to serve and I expect them to be precise at that. That's just the technical skill of being able to serve everywhere on the court. What I mean tactical serving is, are you able to ask your athlete, okay, where are you going to serve? And then get them to make an educated choice. So I hear a lot of complaints sometimes about the size of the gyms and play in the UVA, and sometimes it's true, there's not a lot of space, but that puts you closer to the action. So you can go back, at the end of your bench, be close to your server, and just ask them a question before they go serve. Where are you going to serve? And at 12 years old, 13 years old, they are able to make good decisions. They will tell you, I'm going to serve to 1, or I'm going to serve to number 16. And, if you have a chance to ask them why after, they'll be able to give you a good reason. If you don't agree with their choice, always ask them, well, why not serve here? And then see what their response is. But in my experience, they pick it up really, really quick, and before you know it, they will make those tactical serving choices without you even being involved. And I've seen older athletes not even able to serve somewhere without looking at the bench and with the coach telling them where to serve. And when I see that, I'm thinking that athlete actually, that athlete were actually taught how to do it by themselves, which means that they always need to rely on a coach. At the end of the day, we want our athletes to be independent and making those decisions by themselves. And the same thing with tactical attacking. Athletes at 11 years old can be tactical in their thing. You can teach them to see the court and see the holes and put the ball in those holes. It's just a matter of talking about it and not being afraid to expect that from your players, even at 13U. They are able to learn it. To believe that he can, and they'll do the rest. So systems for 13U. Obviously, triple ball is its own game, but there are a lot of advantages in triple ball. If you want to teach all of your athletes all the skills, triple ball is great, because the rotation and the slow pace of the game allows you to train every player at every skill. Because it's slower, you have more time to reflect on your instructions and the right decisions. The sequence of the game, the fact that you go from a serve, from a free ball to your team, from a free ball to the other team, forces you to train all the aspects of the game, right? Because a third of the game is spent, I could say 1/6 of the game is spent with you serving, another 1/6 of the game is spent receiving, and then 1/3 of the game with you receiving a free ball, so in an offense, and 1/3 of the game in a defense position. So really, a good balance between all aspects of the game that allows you to train all of them. So that's a big advantage of triple ball. And then because at 13U, especially athletes are not very necessarily as strong as when they get to 14U, you can use a setter's position to coach different things. So you can start your season with a setter in position 3, so they can set in front of them. They set the 2 to set the 4. It's really close. That allows your hitters to learn how to hit from the right side, which is not necessarily pull if you have your setter in 2, because you don't have anybody hitting on the right side. So you can teach those skills, and then move forward in your season. You can choose to have your setter setting in 2 now because they develop that strength. Now you kind of teach your athletes to run more, more real system, I guess, with that setter coming from 2, because eventually that's what they're going to play. So you can really address, the development of your players' understanding of the game in a great way with triple ball. Lots of progression that you can do within with that game. The free ball situation really allows you to hone in on the pass set hit, focusing on the number of times where your athletes do 3 contacts, because the younger they are when they start doing those 3 contacts, the better the better they'll be able to transition eventually, because they'll be used to that dig, and that set doesn't back of the court, front of the court, someone can go out there and set that ball for them to hit. And then obviously defense positioning skills, also easier to work in a free ball situation, because as they're getting ready to send the free ball to the other side, you can remind your players of certain cues for them to things for them to look for in order to get this positioning on the court. So lots of stuff to do with that triple ball at that young age. Obviously, a lot of teams will start teaching positions at 14U, and that's okay. That's okay. At some point, players need to learn positions, but there's no need to teach specific positions right at the beginning of the season. First tournament of the season, anyways, there's no positions, it's no specialization. So everybody's going to set, everybody's going to play all positions, but there's no need to get into positions right after. The kids will get it. They will get it. Play all positions, and you structure your season so that, for example, the first tournament you set setter in 1, and everybody in 1 sets the ball. Everybody's going to get an understanding of how that rotation works. And then you go to the next rotation, and then you set in 5, for example, because that's another difficult one. And you work on that one. In your second tournament, you have all your setters. There's always your player in position 5. Then all your players will learn that rotation at all positions, when it's better than 5. And after that, it's going to be really, really easy for you to bring in the other rotations, because the front setter rotations are super easy. And then the next one is position 6, and your setter is almost right at the net there, and both your outsides are your middle there. That's in position 2, who can hit a right side to make it easier, but really easy to acquire once you've had everybody do every positions multiple times in different positions. So if you were to do, I'm going to have my players play all positions for multiple tournaments, I would suggest you really make your setter's position, but it will make it really easy for them to just acquire any type of system after. This is what I did last year with my team, and we had absolutely no problem getting to the end of the season and then playing with a 6-2. Absolutely no problem. And the one thing that this allowed us to do actually was great, because when we were in a front, and the other team at provincials was taking points on us, wherever our setter was, setter B, for example, and we were having a hard time siding out, I could easily call, okay, setter in 1. And because every player knew what that looked like, they just would instantly organize without me having to say anything more than setter in 1, and serve would come. The setter from position 1, who wasn't necessarily a setter from on that set, would run to the net and would have 3 attackers. And we got a lot of situations like that. So not only does it allow you to train all your players at all skills, but it will also help you winning at the end of the season. It will help you perform. So when I talked at the beginning about winning element being compatible, that's an example of that. So my recommendation would be to do that for the first half of the season, and then move to a 6-2 system for the rest of the season. Narrow it down to like 6 setters for your third tournament, rotate all the setters through, and then by your fourth tournament, just narrow it down to 4 setters that will, 4 players that will work with the setting position in 6-2. And you may not have one player who's the best setter in the league, but you will have players that are so skilled all around that you will end up on top in a lot of situations against a lot of teams. Because again, A lot of teams using a strong lineup in the first set, weaker lineup in the second set. If you do that progression, all your players will have such an understanding of the game that they will all be at a level that will likely be higher than any second line. Then my other advice for 14 would be to respect the fair play rule at all time, even in the third set. Prepare your rotations in advance. Prepare your rotations thinking that all games will be going to 2 sets. So you're going to play 6 games tomorrow. Okay. I make my lineups so everybody plays equally for the 6 matches. And then create yourself 6 lineups for third sets, again, that are all equal. And what happens is always going to go into 3 sets. But if you are in a situation where you go to 3 sets, you can pick whatever lineup is for you the best lineup in the situation against that team. And then it allows you to, you can kind of play around with choosing the players, but you still make sure that everybody gets an equal shot at playing. And again, I think it's going to take you, a very, very long way by the end of the season, and also really help these players move forward in your volleyball in the future. So, time's flying by. Couple of additional considerations that I think are important to think about at 13-14U is you need to measure what you want to improve. So if you want to improve the number of times your athletes do 3 contacts, measure that. Take stats about that at tournaments. Have your assistant coach or parent, with a piece of paper, put an X in a box every time your athletes do 3 contacts. And also, decide as another box where they don't do 3 contacts, you took it in a box, and then you can put it in front of a percentage. And when I did it, my 13Us, the first year, by the end of the season, we hit percentages of 90%. 90% of the time, we were able to do 3 contacts. And those were the times when we actually won games. When our percentage dropped below 80, that's when we got beat. But if we were able to maintain the 90%, then more often than we would win. So just measure what you want to work on. What do you want to improve? If you want to force your setters, you want to set with your hands, just like measure the number of times in a set or in a game when they set with their hands versus not setting with their hands. So just measure what you want to improve, and you'll actually be able to see really, really big improvement, because you'll know what to address and how to address it. You'll find out stuff you didn't know about. The one thing that I learned coaching 13-14 the past couple of years is I'm really big on development, obviously, and getting everybody a shot, at playing. But that it's okay to focus on winning at certain times. I made one mistake one time when in a tournament in the quarterfinals, I was playing Pac-Man, and we were up 13-7 in the first set. And I had a player who can serve, so I stopped them in the third set let's just get a kid who can serve, and actually served for us and got us to 13-7. But then once he was done serving, it was like, because it's the third set and I want to play fair play, I just put the player back on court. But that was my weakest player, and Pac-Man came back and won 15-13, and so we actually didn't go to the tournament. And had I kept that player on court, we probably would have won that set and then gone to play more meaningful matches. So I would say be careful with that, but definitely think about that. If winning a match or winning a set will allow you to play more meaningful matches, then I don't think there's anything wrong with tweaking your up in your match in a way that may provide you with an advantage. That may go against the development of the individual's skill, but it will be better for your whole team, all of your players in the end, because they'll get a better opportunity to train later on. And then beyond technical and tactical knowledge, really 13-14U, but it's true for all levels. The most important thing is to connect with your players and be able to be in tune with them and get to know them. And last year, I had a player who was definitely the weakest player on the team in volleyball, and we're in a tournament in semifinal, and we're in the third set, and he's on court because it's his time to be on court. And he's doing okay. He's doing okay, but he hasn't been serving well all day. So he's going to serve, and it's tight there at the end of the third set, and I want my team to win that match. Obviously, I'm really competitive. So I'm thinking, okay, do I sub him out? Do I put this other kid who can really serve well? And then I started, just took a step back and started thinking about how it would affect him as a player. And I thought, well, if I pull him out, it's, he's going to feel like I don't trust him. He's going to feel it hurt his confidence. And so I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to need him and his confidence and his feeling about how I trust him is really important for the success of the team. So I'm going to leave him in, and we'll deal with whatever happens. And he actually scored. He actually scored 3 balls and scored 1 ace, allowed us to move forward. He won that set, and he ended up serving in the finals as well. So at that time, I felt that really being connected to that athlete and to what was important to him was the most important thing in that moment. And it turned out that it worked really, really well for us and for him as well. He had a really strong end of the season. So really, really important at that age to know your athletes, what they like, know what's gonna put them off, know what's gonna make them feel good, make them feel bad, and beyond like any technical and tactical skills you may work with and work on, that may be the one single most important thing for your team to be successful and for that athlete to be successful, because they're going to want to play more volleyball, they're going to want to learn, and it's going to make them better in the end. So lots of stuff over the past hour. I know talking about this for hours. It's been a full day talking about training at age group, but I wanted to get you guys to reflect on a few things and bring some things to your attention. So I'll take some questions now. If you have them. If you don't, that's okay. But if you have some questions, I'm happy to answer them right now. It's late, but if we take maybe 5-10 minutes, that'd be all good. Also, I would remind you to please write your full name in the chat box so I can give you your PD points. Please write your full name, as a lot of you are in the chat box as viewer 3, viewer 2. If I don't have your name, I won't be able to give you your PD points. So, anyone with questions, things you'd like to discuss? Oh, okay, Marlon. Thank you. Thank you for putting your name in. If I were to ask you a question, if I were to ask what you think is the most challenging thing with coaching 13, 14, what would you say that is? I'd be curious to know. If no one has questions or topics or things to talk about, that's cool. Thank you for being on the webinar. It's been recorded, or it will be up on the website tomorrow morning. If you have questions, things that you want to about, you want to have more information about something, there's something I've said and talked about you'd like to know more about, or find some resources about them, just let me know. Send me an email. lpmainville@ontariovolleyball.org. You can find my email easily on the OVA website. You know where to find me. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it made you reflect on a few things. I hope that you have more questions than you have answers, because at the end of the day, I think that's how we get better, is if we start asking ourselves questions and see the answers for them. So hope you have more questions than you had at the beginning, so you can get better and improving your coaching. And look forward to see you guys in the gym. So thanks for tuning in, and have a great volleyball season. Talk to you soon.